Tonight on Bog Panda, Mike and I are going to talk about Tiger fighting games. Wow. Hi, everybody. I'm Kelly at KELOYTHUL on Twitter and Instagram. And with me, as always,
It's someone who just saw the most amazing thing they've ever seen in their lives. Dr. Mike at Official Bacon on everything. Make sure if that didn't get you to like and subscribe, I don't know what will. But make sure you like and subscribe. Turn on notifications. Leave some comments about how that's going to haunt your dreams for the rest of your life. Check out our merch store because you'll feel better leaving those comments wearing one of our t-shirts. Then try to in your waking nightmares tonight of that, just put on our playlist of Hard No, the world's shortest podcast. You can burn through 100 episodes tonight.
Yep.
I believe in you.
Yep. I don't know if it'll soothe you to sleep because there's kind of a big noise at the beginning, at the end. It's a nice little chord. So it may not be the most soothing, but it is fine listening. So you should give it a shot.
I made that chord. I'm proud of that chord.
It's a good chord. I like it.
It is. Took a bunch of instruments and just chopped a little piece. And
so folks should probably go out to Hard No and check out Mike's work on the chord.
Absolutely.
And then, in addition, good friend of the show, Rebecca Kennedy, is involved in another project. So we know her and love her from the upcoming film Crust. And we've had her and Sean Whalen on talk about that. So very excited about that. Go and check those videos out. Super awesome. But she's now going to be involved. They're working to get a film set up called Sweet Molly. And they're doing some more kind of Kickstarter-ish type of stuff for that. If you go to the website, Sweet Molly, MOLLY, Sweet Molly, MOLLY film, FILM, it'll be down below because of my poor diction and explaining things. And we'll also include a link in our description. If you get a chance to go over there and can contribute, we'll help some folks working independently to create some good stuff, to do some more stuff. Rebecca is super awesome, a great friend of the show, and any chance we get to support her, we want to. So let's give her that Bog Panda bump. Go to Sweet Molly Film and contribute what you can to help make this movie. It looks pretty cool. It's going to be kind of a sci-fi meets fundamental Mormonism film. So there's that, so that and somehow she can astral project. And I think Rebecca's the lead in this. And sounds super quirky, interesting, strange, and fun. So give it a chance to take a look if you can.
I mean, you had me at Molly, and then you went and sweetened the pot with fundamental Mormonism.
Right. What more can you ask for?
Now, Kelly, do you ever, I know this is off topic already, do you listen to anything to get to sleep?
I do actually, because particularly when so it started for a while when I couldn't go to sleep, as I finally pop in some earbuds and listen to a documentary on, mud flats in Tennessee or something, just something more innocuous that just kind of gave me a sound and does that. Lately, I've gone more into just some lectures on history and those types of things, which are kind of also kind of a very soft kind of spoken presenter type of thing. And so
That's a very democratic way of saying boring.
Yeah, pretty much. But it works out. It's just kind of a nice white-ish noise. Now, I believe you also will on occasion listen to something, but it's of a little different flavor than mine.
That's correct. Yeah, this is a more recent thing for me. I always had insomnia. Like as a kid, it was really bad as a kid. They wouldn't give me, obviously as a kid, they wouldn't give me any kind of sleeping pills or anything like that, which I still don't take. Nothing against anyone who does. It's not the way I go with stuff. But as a kid, I would sometimes go 2, occasionally even 3 days at a time without sleeping at all, which is not great on you mentally or physically. Just not a good time. As I got older, it got better to the point where I would sleep every night, not the whole night, but at least a couple hours every night, which still isn't good, but way healthier than not sleeping for days at a time. Now I'm at a point where I can sleep like 4 or 5 hours pretty much every night. So almost like a full night's sleep. Occasionally, though, it hits me where I just can't fall asleep. So people started making suggestions, friends and family members, and things like, oh, listen to rain sounds or do this or that. I hate that stuff. Hate it. Rain sounds are irritating to me. Real rain doesn't bother me, but like the artificial like rain noises and things like that, it's just this annoying sound that's not letting me sleep at that point. At some point, though, I found these like soundscapes of like very specific situations. So one is like you're on an Alaskan oil rig and a fire is breaking. It's like the sound of fire and wind or something like that. Like it's just these weird, super specific situations. My wife doesn't love them. I would say certain ones she's gotten used to, she can sleep through. Doesn't love them though overall. So one of them I found was a soundscape of Chernobyl. So it's like an alarm going off, people screaming. It was fantastic. That's at the bottom of her list of
Yep, that was
her,
it.
her approval ratings of these things.
Yeah, I think you need to get the Death Star siren and just put that clip on infinite repeat, and that'll delight her to no end.
It does work though. These things do put me to sleep. I don't know why, but especially anything that has to do with like ice and wind, that's it. That's the ticket for me.
Asen, you're interesting character, Mike. There's
There's one, it's some like I don't know what company put it out, but like Time Life or like one of those kind of companies that put it out, and it's like 10 hours of like they recorded a ship in the Arctic. So it's just like ice crunching and wind and stuff like that. Knocks me right out. I get through 5 minutes of it, maybe, of the 10 hours.
Yeah, I think well we could make a lot of money if we got a Trump impersonator to just kind of read fairy tales and riff off it like he does, like doing Jack and the Beanstalk, and it's like, and then he traded the beans, his cow for some beans. That's a terrible trade. I never would have made that trade. It's like sounded good. It's bad business, but
He read the art of the deal.
yeah, just and yeah, the giant had the greatest goose of all time. It's a beautiful goose. Many people said that it was the best goose. So, but another way you won't fall asleep though is to play Tiger fighting games.
Absolutely not. That was a
Slide
good
right
transition.
that was smooth right back in there. So I had I think intersected with a few Tiger games over time. I was probably more in that budget handheld. The ColecoVision football and basketball were more. Those were the red LEDs kind of going across versus these, which are an LCD kind of display. But there were actually quite a few, and one in particular I want to make sure we talk about. But so, did you have Tiger games? Do you still have any Tiger games?
I do both. Yes. So I remember those ColecoVision games. That's just slightly before my time, but I have an uncle who is not a whole lot older than me. He was a super late in life kid for my grandmother. So he's I don't even know off the top of my head, less than 10 years older than me. To put that in perspective, I have aunts and uncles who are 30 plus years older than me. So there's a huge gap in the time frame there. So he was more like when I was a kid, he was kind of a kid still as well. So he had those games. So I remember him giving those to me when he had kind of upgraded to different things. So I remember those red LED ColecoVision football and basketball and stuff like that, and not really having any idea what was going on, but just being happy to play a game on the go because I loved video games. And this is like before Game Boy came out and took over everything. And I remember when Game Boy came out, and even then, like it's hard to kind of the early Game Boy games, like Tetris was genuine, not just because it's a good game and an addictive game, but was genuinely the peak of what Game Boy could do in those early launch titles, because a lot of those games look bad. Those early games, they're very minimal. They tried a lot of platformers and things. They're very minimal. The characters are tiny. So that's really like Tetris played into the strengths of the system with its kind of minimalism and large blocky sprites on the screen. It really showed off that you could have fun with this. They just kind of needed to figure out how to make games for it. So while that was happening, Tiger was putting out these more kind of budget friendly games, but they were individual handheld systems tied to specific IPs. And they pumped these things out fast. I mean, I would say at their height, it seemed like there was a new Tiger handheld every week. These were promoted really heavily too. I remember every comic book I read had back page ads for these. There were commercials on TV. It got so big, Tiger actually did end up releasing their own consoles based off of their what are essentially calculators that kind of emulate gameplay. So they made so much money off of this. They tried to get into the actual console market at one point based off of this. So I mean, they were a big deal. They actually Tiger was eventually purchased by Hasbro, and a couple of years ago for the anniversary of Tiger, they did reissue a few of these, and I did buy one. I bought the X-Men one. I was kind of disappointed though that none of the fighting games came out. It was like X-Men, Little Mermaid, Sonic, I want to say, and maybe Jurassic Park. So it was actually a good kind of smattering of things because they definitely made stuff that was geared more towards like a female audience, for example, which wasn't common in gaming at the time, at least not that I saw. So there would be like, Little Mermaid and different Disney princess things and all. There would be, pink shells on the outside and things like that. So there was definitely stuff that was geared more towards a female audience. And that was kind of cool to see because, the serious game companies were definitely not doing that.
Yeah, the suite of what they have is pretty amazing. What I was stunned, we're going to include a link to a video where a gentleman kind of goes through and reviews, talks about a number of the different ones. My jaw dropped though when I found out there was actually a Tiger light gun game. Just really wrap your head around that, because these are in the impulse lane as you head out of a grocery store kind of priced things. So these are not your game console. And to have a light gun game, which obviously is a very small little light gun, but pretty interesting. But based on, I don't know, did you ever get the light gun game?
No, I knew it existed, but I had never even seen it until this video. Never actually saw someone play it.
Yeah, Virtua Cop was the title, but it does not appear to work, which is not much of a shock because I don't really quite know what the logistics are to make a light gun like action work on an LCD screen, basically. So I don't.
And for anybody who doesn't know, this is very similar to an old school calculator. So if you look at a calculator, all of the numbers are on the calculator already. They're just not lit up, but the graphics for them are on there. This is the same thing. So there's a finite amount of character animations that are already laid into the screen that are being triggered by your button presses.
Yeah, and so it was interesting in things like Street Fighter and really even Mortal Kombat. They take that because there's this sprite say, okay, here's the starting position for the fighter. It's always going to be the starting position for the fighter. Depending on who you pick, you'll get either a little ponytail extra or a little bit of a mohawk or whatever to do some things. Actually, not too bad in giving you at least a sense of who it was.
Yeah, I think it's more effective than it sounds like it's going to be when you actually see it. Yeah. If someone explains it to you that way, like, oh yeah, it's the same character body essentially, then they'll just put a ponytail and then it's Sonya from Mortal Kombat. That sounds really dumb, but it is recognizable as the character when they do that. So it's a little more effective than it sounds like it is. It's still very cheap way to go about it, but like it does get its point across.
Yeah, it and it depends. Playability on all of them. You're not going to get precision controller action on any of this stuff. And it becomes almost a little bit of pattern recognition. I mean, although even some of the video games is a little bit of pattern recognition, all that, but this is because of Mike talking about there's only so many set positions that are going to occur there. So you'll see also, as you might expect, maybe not the richest sound environment for a game.
That's fair. I would say that's generous.
Yeah. But it's, you get what you pay for and some of that, but it was really cool. I was really struck by the light gun game. And then what I wasn't really familiar with at all was Fighters Mega Mix. And that there was actually, so this appeared, I mean, this has been ported all over the place. It's another one of the many games that I don't know how I've been out of the mix on, but it was a game where it pulled in basically what if we had characters from all sorts of different worlds involved. So it's almost, I mean, if you think about Super Smash Brothers now, it's like that, but instead of the gated garden of Nintendo IP, it extends out. It extends out so far that you can fight as a stock car, a Daytona stock car, which I thought was just magic. I've got to hunt that game down on my Super Console X because I absolutely need to fight somebody as Richard Petty's stock car.
My personal favorite of the original Tiger Electronics, and I was so disappointed that this wasn't one of the reissues. So one of the things that they did, and I don't think there were as many of I mean, there were objectively a million different handheld games that they did, but I remember seeing less. They made watches as well. So Tiger Electronics made watches, which makes sense because again, it's that same LCD screen. That's
same tech. Yep.
Yeah, it's same exact thing. So to put it in a different form factor makes sense. I had a Double Dragon Tiger watch. So not only was the watch amazing looking, the design on it and everything, but you could play Double Dragon on the watch with two tiny little buttons on the side that you would also use to set the timer and everything out, like the normal watch buttons. You could play Double Dragon on there with tiny little LCD guys on the screen. That was amazing at the time. And I remember people losing their minds looking at this watch because not only did it look cool with its colors and the Double Dragon IP stamped all over it, but being able to play a video game on your watch. We were living in the year 10,000 at that point.
BC.
Now it seems so quaint looking back at it, but at that time it was just like, this is it. Like, this is the movie Lawnmower Man come to life.
Yeah, it's and really, while phones have obviously become a huge gaming platform, as smartwatches have merged, I haven't seen the type. I mean, why not do just like, so here's again more free money for manufacturers out there. Mike and I continue to give you all these gifts, and so hopefully someone takes up. One is you need to do VR versions of all the Sega electric mechanical games. Absolutely need to do that. Start with Periscope. Go get that done. And then we need to buy another yacht and you need more money. Come up with the app that you can put on a smart watch that emulates the Tiger games, the Tiger watch games, or maybe even some of these little games themselves, and put those out. And that's going to be, can't be a lot of code necessary to support that.
Can't imagine.
So there you go. So that's a retro way to deliver some experiences that people will eat up. You're welcome, future phone manufacturer of Tiger games.
Absolutely. And I do think we do need to mention, so Tiger did get into console manufacturing. Now this started with the Tiger handheld games in a sense, because they came up with a scanning system with them where you could buy cards that would give you new content that you could add to it, and you would scan the cards into it. I've heard I never played one of these. I heard really mixed things about how well that actually worked. But their first official console, since Kelly brought up Virtual Boy in a recent episode, was the R Zone. Imagine Virtual Boy way, way worse. That was the R Zone. And what's amazing about it is how really similar they look. Not just the form factor of the console itself, as well as the games. It's incredible how similar they look because they were contemporaries of each other. So like Tiger didn't steal this from Nintendo or vice versa. But right around the time Virtual Boy came out, Tiger put out the R Zone. R Zone was a headset that you actually wore on your head, unlike Virtual Boy. So it's got that going for it. But you strap this thing to your head, and it had this big piece with a monocle that came down over your eye, and it projected the LCD character. Still the same type of graphics, but in black and red, just like Virtual Boy. Again, really weird. Just like Virtual Boy, it projected it onto the monocle over your eye. So if you think Virtual Boy gave you headaches pretty quickly,
it did.
This hung over your eye, just one eye, as you were walking around with it strapped to your head, projecting these LCD images into your eye. It didn't last long. It lasted short. It was a shorter lifespan than the actual Virtual Boy had.
Yeah, neither seemed like a good idea.
No, this was. I remember even seeing like ads for it and just thinking that seems awful. That just, it looks like it hurts to play it. And I don't think I've ever met somebody who owned one before. I know a lot of people who know about it and saw it. I remember seeing them in stores, but I've never met somebody who's like, oh yeah, I had an R Zone. That was, now I would kind of, if I saw one somewhere, I would probably buy it. Never play it, but probably buy it just to kind of have it and put it somewhere and explain to people this thing that happened. It was like, yeah, Tiger Electronics was like, hey, wouldn't it be great if we just burned these calculator style graphics right onto your eyeball?
Yeah, I think the next Saw movie is going to have a couple rooms where it's going to have Virtual Boy in one room and R Zone in the next, and going to put somebody in
no
there.
Good
like,
choice.
Like, what do you want me to do? I'll just play. It's. You'll be tortured. It'll be just great.
just play the games.
Just play
like, oh, what did you make special games? No, it's just the real games. The game with it.
Stock right off the shelf.
Yeah.
Just play it.
It's the pack-in game for both.
Yep, and that'll be the biggest grossing. So welcome Saw franchise. We've given you now 2/3 of your next movie. So we're givers. That's what we do.
That's what we do here.
Excellent. So anything else on the wonderful world of Tiger?
No, I would say R Zone was probably the peak. They did somehow, R Zone didn't take them out completely, and they did make one more console. That was the Gamecom, which was a slight improvement over their other stuff. It looked like a Game Boy, essentially, the graphics, except handheld gaming had progressed far beyond the Game Boy at that point, so it was still like 3 generations behind. So I don't know anyone who ever played one or purchased one of those.
Yeah, and to a degree, they gave it away, but they gave it a shot. But it felt like, if you look at some of the Gamecom things, it's just like so this is what happens if you flesh out the Tiger LCD stuff and keep kind of the gameplay the same. So it's just
same gameplay, but bump it up to like early Game Boy graphics.
Yeah, get a little more, a little bit of color, maybe a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but they so is Tiger still a going concern? Or
no, that their IPs are owned by Hasbro now. So Hasbro did those reissues, but yeah, Tiger doesn't exist anymore.
Well, thank you while you existed, Tiger, for giving us
for blinding children with the art.
Yeah, maybe the class action lawsuits around their virtual experience knocked them out. So good. Well, let us know if you're maybe like you're a proud Zone owner and are going to just take us to task. Bring it on. We'll take it there.
Also, is somebody working on an R-Zone emulator? I hope so.
That would be good. And Saw movie franchise. Thank you. You're welcome. Enjoy our gifts on that. And get on the smartwatch emulations of that. And thanks for watching, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Bog Panda.